Happy Monday, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to From the Hearts of Men radio show / podcast. I am your host, Kocysha LaShaun, founder of Be Accelerated into Purpose and overseer of Humbled by His Grace Ministries. Y'all, we are in our third month of this show. Wow, we have had some exciting guests to come on and share their stories of how God has inspired a transformation in their life, a life-changing decision, or whatever their spiritual aha moments are. And we are excited to continue to move forward with more guests who will share what God is doing in their life, and that which I hope encourages, empowers, and uplifts you in your own journey, especially as men. As again, this show is obviously from men and for men, but we know that all people, men and women, are listening to this. And I just pray that you continue to be encouraged by the stories that are being shared. So, as you know, this show focuses on this is a virtual sequel, so to speak, of my last book, From the Heart of God to the Hearts of Men. And we are listening to men now share their stories of how God has moved in their life. This morning, or this afternoon rather, my special guest hails from Baltimore, Maryland. He is the president and CEO of JNF Enterprises, which is a distribution, publishing, and business consulting firm. His mission is to assist entrepreneurs grow their business and brand by using his brand new development, 7 strategies for fundamental branding program and workbook. This program assists entrepreneurs and businesses to gain mainstream exposure using 21st century techniques and tools. Not only that, he is the author of 7 books, 3 of which are his Building the 21st Century Company book series. So, with that being said, I am happy because we're going to let him tell you more about who he is. But today I'm happy to introduce to you all Mr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. Mr. McKenzie, thank you so much for being on the show today. Please give us a brief description. Tell us more outside of your bio about who is the man behind Leroy McKenzie Jr.
Oh, wow. I like the way you asked that. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate you allowing me to be able to come and talk with you just a few minutes about who I am and this great platform that you have for men, talking about who we are as men, manhood, and then great things that we can do as men. And so just to tell you a little bit about me and who I am. My name is Leroy McKenzie Jr., as she mentioned, and I'm the impact builder. And what I look to do is to enlighten, empower, and impact individuals and organizations to assist them in being able to bring their visions to reality. And I try and do that through a couple of different ways. I do that through the business consulting that I do, and then also through the book publishing and magazine that I have as well. As you mentioned, I'm the author of 7 books, and then I've also been a contributing author for 3 additional books.
Oh, wow.
And those books focus on every aspect, enlightenment, empower, and impact, because that was the foundational thing that God gave me when it came to JNF Enterprises. What are those 3 core things that I wanted to do, or that he assigned me to do? I say that I wanted to do, that he assigned me to do with JNF Enterprises. And that was to teach, to equip, and then to impact, to do something. So that's my charge. That's what I do in a nutshell. That's who Leroy McKenzie Jr. is in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. So, for those of you who have been listening, then you know that our very first show was with Mr. Corey Walker, and he talked about his entrepreneurial journey. Well, even though some of us may be on the same journey, everybody's story is so different. And today we are highlighting again how Mr. McKenzie started his journey to where he is now. And basically for a lot of us, I know me, myself, I'm a parallelpreneur. So I work a 9 to 5, and I also have my business on the side. And I know there are so many people in that position, and I have not, and I know other people have not either, gotten to that place where we are ready to dive into entrepreneurship full time, because that takes more than just saying, oh, okay, I'm just going to quit my job today and we going, it takes so much planning beforehand. But it also takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of things you have to factor in so much. So today's segment, I'm happy to say, will most likely be titled Jesus Never Fails. But you will find out why it's titled that as Mr. McKenzie shares more of his story. So, Mr. McKenzie, I want you to, it is now your opportunity, your floor to share with us your journey of being in the corporate world, working a 9 to 5, how you got to, how God started switching some things to you moving out in entrepreneur. So just tell us your story of how you came to where you are now.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you again. And my journey actually started back when I was working in corporate America. My background is in hotel restaurant management. That was my major in college. Graduated with a degree in hotel restaurant management from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And I had this dream that I was going to be able to be in corporate America, was able to build my career in corporate America, be able to become a district manager. And ultimately, I actually wanted to own hotels, and I still have that. That's on my bucket list. I'm going to own a hotel one day, and I'm working towards that. But I had these dreams of building that career in the hospitality. Well, as I got into my hospitality career, I began to see that I was working and just killing myself for other people. And so it came to a point back in like 94, 90, no, I'm sorry, like 95, mid 90s going into the 2000s. I'm working with a great friend of mine now. He and I had this idea, like we said, we're going to become district managers. We're going to be able to build up the corporate ladder thing. And each of us were doing easily over 65 hours, close to 70 to 75 hours a week. Wow. And that's both of us. That's both of us individually doing those hours. So he and I got to talking. I'm just like, dude, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I'm not going to be killing myself for someone else. And these folks don't even appreciate the work that we're putting in, to this company. So I'm like, I'm not having it. I'm not going to do it, and then even some other things that happened between the district manager. Now, her telling me that I would never become a general manager as long as she was there. So I was like, oh, that's all I need to hear. That's all I need to hear. So I was telling him, like, I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I said, so, I said, I'm out. I'm out. And I moved to working for, a couple other companies after that, doing things that make ends meet, working at 9 to 5. But in that time frame, I began to start to work on my company. I started to think, how can I, what we were getting ready to go into the 2000s. So the thing at that time was the .coms. Was everybody was talking about the Y2K and that the bank system was going to crash. Everything was going to crash. So and I took a look at corporate America, and I started to just notice just how they were being, the leadership was not what it should have been. And a lot of the companies were being run into the ground. They had leadership that was either not equipped to be leaders, or they were leaders who just wanted the titles. They didn't want to do the work, but they wanted the title and the benefits that came along with it. And that's a recipe for disaster. You ask me. You got folks that either don't know what they're doing, or folks that don't want to be there and they're not doing anything anyway. So, and I started to see how those companies were being run, and they were being run into the ground. So I said, well, what can I do? Seeing that there was this need that needed to be filled, that would allow me to be able to have my own business, but then at the same time also assist companies being able to run better. So I started off it started off with me writing. I wrote 2 books of poetry, and then I had a Christian apparel line. That was what it started. But as I started to think about corporate America, I was like, there's got to be something that I can do. So that's where the Building the 21st Century book series came from. The initial book is titled "The Customer's Not Always Right," and it was a common sense strategy to building a successful business. And I just focused on building a healthy work environment, creating maximizing productivity, and then increasing your bottom line. The second book in that was on entrepreneurship. It was a young and gifted new generation, the next generation of entrepreneurs. And I took 21 entrepreneurs under the age of 20, under the age of 40, I'm sorry, that were not in music, sports, or entertainment. And I had them talk about their particular, their stories, what made them become entrepreneurs, what made them want to become entrepreneurs, how they saw their particular industries when they entered, how they saw them now, and then how they saw them in the future. And then the third book in that was on leadership, the art of leadership. And I focused on leadership from different perspectives, from 5 different perspectives. That was the family, government, education, business, and the church. So no matter which leadership position you were in, or all of those, I wanted people to gain an understanding of what leadership was, because I think a lot of folks, they have this perception of leadership, but really didn't understand what leadership entails and what makes you a leader, what defines you being a leader. Because just having the title, and I even said it, just having those letters behind your name or having the letters in front of your name doesn't make you a leader. So it was me putting together that and saying, wow, how can I put this out there to be, to talk about these issues that I see, and also make corporate America better. How do I make corporate America better? And then how can I assist entrepreneurs? Because I was a new entrepreneur myself. So how can I help assist them in being able to not bump their head against the wall like I did? Because I got some bumps and bruises myself. But it was about that learning the things that I needed to learn, understanding what I needed to do, what worked, what didn't work, how I could go about being able to build my business from a marketing perspective, from a branding perspective, all of those things, and be able to grow it. And then as I grew my business, I had more people asking me, well, how did you do this? Or how did you write a book? You wrote a book, I'm interested in writing a book. So I started to say, hey, I need to do the same thing as an author, show people how they can go about writing the book. And then those pitfalls and those things that they may encounter, so that they don't have to go through, again, the bumps and bruises that I went through when it came to writing books and being able to understand how do you use that platform and how do you build a business doing that, and how do you do it from, and my niche became to be from a marketing and branding perspective, helping people to be able to see that. And how you build a brand. How do you build a brand? How do you develop a marketing plan? What is it that that it entails with that? So that's been my journey, and it hasn't been an easy one. This journey that I've been on. It's been get up, fall down, get up, get back up, just fall.
Right.
But that's what entrepreneurship is. It's about being willing to take that risk that and you what you know and what you don't know, and figuring out some of the things that work, figuring out some of the things that don't work, talking to people, building your network, understanding that your relationships are resources. How do you build relationships? What's the importance of having relationships when it comes to your business, when it comes to being an entrepreneur? Having somebody that can show me the things so that I don't have to bump my head. How do you find those people, in your life, and the importance of those, and then having your circle around you, what I call your circle of impact, which are those folks around you that can pour into you, but then also that you can pour into as well. So that's been my journey so far, as the things that I do, what I try and do, and then what I'm trying to achieve moving forward as well.
Awesome. Okay, let's take it back a little bit, because we still got more. There's still more of your story to be told. So we know that you were working in corporate America, and you were working in hotel management, and you realized, like, okay, they don't value me, and I'm working all these hours for them, and they could easily replace me at any moment. And one person even said, like, you'll never be general manager as long as I'm here. So you're dealing with all of this, and you start building your brand. So where did the transition come into and the decision making come in as far as, okay, it's time for me to finally leave this to now become a full-time entrepreneur? So tell us about that transition period.
Sure, absolutely. And I had been working on my business while, like I mentioned, while I was in corporate America. That was me, that where I was writing, I was writing the books at the time, of course. So, I would do my regular 9 to 5 and writing the books, putting my business plan together for my business and structuring it, what I wanted it to look like, what my vision was for it, what my mission was going to be for it, and everything like that, and doing the research that I needed to do, because I didn't at the time, I didn't know anything, of course, about book writing, book publishing, but I did know, what I did know was this, that that I didn't want to have somebody else tell me what my vision was. So I wasn't going to go the traditional route of trying to find an agent or trying to go to mainstream publishers, because I knew what they were going to do. If you didn't fit into their cookie cutter formula, they weren't going to use you. Same thing with the regular corporate market. If you don't fit into their formula, you don't fit into that cookie cutter, they make it very difficult for you in corporate America. So I just kept putting my pieces together, making a plan for how I could transition, as you mentioned, transition from working in corporate America at 9 to 5 to actually where I would be able to have my own business where it would be able to sustain me. And that's been, that's been a journey in and of itself, because as you mentioned, it's not easy. The entrepreneurship journey, it's not something that is, it's not guaranteed. You can do all the planning that you want, but it's an example of what we've been going through the past 18 months, year and a half now with the pandemic. You can't plan for things like that. That didn't happen back then, back in 2000. And I started my business back in 2004. So it's been 2004 to now that I've been between corporate America and then transitioning to 2011, 2012 was when I actually left corporate America. And it was like, I'm doing this. This is, hey, I'm either going to make it, or, if I have to go back to corporate America, then I go back to corporate America. But I'm going to do this because this is where God was moving me to, and this is where I wanted to be. I've always had that passion to want to be an entrepreneur and have my own business. Now, if you'd asked me, would it have been, book publishing, book consulting, and business consulting? Business consulting, maybe, but the book, I'd be like, no, I'm not writing no books. I don't know about writing the books, but that's the way that it has moved to, and how God has moved me from transitioning out of corporate America to now. And I'll tell anyone, if you have a 9 to 5 and you do want to have your own business, don't leave right away. Make sure that you have a plan for how you're going to leave. You don't want to just jump out there and jump. No, you want to be strategic about it. Yes, I believe in God just like everyone else, but I also know that God doesn't tell you or lead you anywhere that he doesn't guide you and prepare you for first. So you have to be prepared for it. Do your research, understand your industry that you're moving into, or that if it's the same industry that you're coming out of, then you want to make sure that you still have an understanding of it, and that you are able to use the skill sets, the skills that you gain from those, from working in the position that you were in, to your own business. That's a big thing. All of the skills that I've gained from corporate America, I don't take any of that away. I relish that, because it's what made me who I am. It actually prepared me for some of the things that I would encounter as an entrepreneur. Understanding budgets, knowing how to forecast, putting a schedule together, being able to put certain aspects of the business plan in place, and all of those things. Doing my research on industries, understanding that industries have cycles. Industries have cycles, and you have to understand those cycles, and you have to be prepare your business for the different cycles that come along, and the importance of being able to shift, being able to shift when things happen. The pandemic is the perfect example. You had to, even me, I had to, during the pandemic, I had to be able to shift with my business. There were things that I was doing prior to that helped me. And because I was doing those things that I actually even learned back when I was in college. And because of that, I was able to do that shift and be able to say, okay, the mission hasn't changed. My products and services haven't changed, but where I can find my target audience and where I'm able to do the things that I want to do, or be able to find the customers and clients that I need, that may have changed. So I have to be able to adjust in that way. So those are things that I've learned along this journey and that have put me on, the path that I'm on now.
Awesome, awesome. Now I want you to also share. So I love that you said, first of all, that, yes, you have faith that God is was moving you in a certain direction, but there was still work that you had to do on your end. And real quickly, I want you, because you mentioned research several times, and I know when I started this whole entrepreneur journey, not knowing nothing about what I was doing, and mine started in 2013 after a job loss. So it was like I had to figure something out. But for those who are listening again, and this is a perfect time to be talking about this, being in the pandemic. One of the things that I've learned when things start going south or things start going a different way than we intended is we have to be able, and you said this again, you said this a few minutes ago, we have to be able to shift with the times, and we have to be able to shift, allow our perspectives to change. So a lot of times, so people may be looking at this pandemic as a bad thing. And for some people, it may be, depending on, everybody's circumstances are different, but there is still, one of the sayings that I've always had and held on to is there's a blessing in every situation. I don't care how bad it is. So for us now, even in this pandemic, and it seems like things may be going south again, when you say research, give us just a couple of tips or three things at least what you mean by research, because again, we have people who are probably have been in 9 to 5 all their lives,
right?
And that's how I was. Never thought that I was going to venture into coaching or anything like that, but yet that's where I found myself. And so for those listening, they may be finding themselves in the same way, like, okay, and especially men, because I know it's some men like y'all can't be still. And it's like, it's not in your nature to be still. So you may be out of work now at during this particular time. And it's like, what can I do? I can't stand this being still and just sitting at home doing nothing. So when you talk about research, give them some nuggets that they could possibly use especially for the men who may actually be sitting at home and out of a job and are considering, okay, what else is there for me to do other than depending on this 9 to 5 job?
And that's a great question. And I say it starts with the self-analysis. And what I want men to understand specifically is to take an assessment. And you got to be honest about yourself. Be honest about your skill set. What skill set do you have? What skill set do you bring, whether it's to the 9 to 5, or even if you're transitioning, like you were talking about, if you want to transition to being an entrepreneur, what skill sets do you have? And then what skill sets do you need to acquire? Research will show you that, hey, is the particular industry that I'm going to be in or that I'm entering, do I need a specific skill set? I'll give you an example, a plumber. If I'm a plumber, and I know that I need specific certifications, I may have to go through particular classes. So are there classes that I need to take in order to be able to be certified now? Because as you and I both know, industries change, laws change. So you may be required to have certain licenses that you might not have been required to have a couple of years ago. So that's part of what your research will give you. It'll give you the skill sets that you may need, or even classes or certifications that you may need. So that's one thing that research will give you. The second thing research will give you is it'll show you where that particular industry is trending. Where's it going to? Where do you see that industry, or where they see the industry in the next 5 years or 10 years? And that was what I was referring to when I was talking about what I learned in college. Our dean used to always embed in us and instill in us the bell curve theory. And he had this bell curve theory, and he would always say that you have to always be in front of the bell curve. You had some people that were in front of the bell curve, some people that were on top of the bell curve, and some people that were behind the bell curve. And the pandemic gave me that perfect example. There were some of us that were able to be in front of the bell curve because we might have already been doing some of the things that we needed to be doing, i.e. The virtual world that we now see is big. Some of us were already doing that before the pandemic hit. So it was shifting, but it was still, we were already doing it. So it wasn't a major shift to be able to transition to doing a lot of our work over the internet or virtual. That wasn't new. That wasn't something new, as opposed to you had some that were on top of the bell curve who, yeah, they had their foot in it. They weren't really, they weren't really used to it, weren't really sure about it. They still had some more that they needed to learn about it. They had to learn what's a Zoom, what's a hop in, what are these different terminologies and different technologies that I now have to learn or have to have a better understanding on. And that's where some of the classes may come in, where you gain that skill set of, hey, this virtual world that I'm in, I need to actually know more about it. How can I learn more about it? And understand it better so that I can then, I can actually have an even smoother transition into the virtual world. And then there were those that were behind the bell curve. And unfortunately, those are some of the businesses that weren't able to survive. Some businesses that had to close as a result of them not being able to transition, them not being able to move from the brick and mortar to online, to understanding the e-commerce, all of those aspects of business that they didn't have. A prime example of that would be some of the restaurants. Some of the restaurants, they were only in-house, where you could only eat at the restaurant. They didn't have delivery or anything like that.
Right.
So some of them they were forced to close. There were some that were able to shift because they were able to say, hey, I can now do deliveries, or I now have to do deliveries if I'm going to stay open, if my restaurant is going to be able to survive. So I got to learn this delivery thing. How do I be able to do that? I had to learn how to use my phone. A lot of businesses, had to have created apps as a result of the pandemic. So that was part of transition. I need to know about apps? What does that mean? How do I operate on an app? How does somebody order on an app? I got to hire somebody that knows how to create apps? All of those things. So it became a thing of being able to learn. What do I need to learn? That's what the research does for you as an entrepreneur, being able to shift and doing that assessment of yourself as well as your business and the things that you need to learn, things that you need to kind of add to your repertoire, or even add to what you do as a business. And you're able to now say, as a result of it, you've created additional streams of income for your business, whereas you only had this one or two, now you got 3 or 4. So that's what I believe you gain from research. Those are just a couple of things that you learn from the research when you do research, and you learn about your industry and you learn about technology that you have going on.
Awesome. So we have moved from you being in corporate world and transitioning to full-time entrepreneurship. So tell us, how has that been? What have been some of the losses? What have been some of your wins? Because again, we know that it's a process. We often see the end results on social media where everything is going good, but we don't realize how many times we've been rejected, or how many no's we've gotten, or how much money we've lost behind the scene trying to get to that what everybody sees on social media. So share some things share some of your wins and some of your losses, but also the mindset, what kept you going in spite of the losses.
Wow. And that's a great question. some of the wins and losses that I've had have been, hey, it's always trying to be able to gain more clients and to gain more exposure. The more exposure you get gives you the more clients. So that's always a something that you have to work at. You know, it's something that you always have to work at. It's something that you have to be trying to be consistent at. And that's where I try to instill in what I do a system or just things that I can do. And I've had to learn how to be consistent. I'll give you a great example. When I was trying to do more branding and do more marketing, I had a branding coach, consultant that I worked with, and she was like, Leroy, I need you to do 3 posts a day. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't have time to be doing. I'm trying to make some. She was like, Leroy, trust me. I would need you to do 3 posts a day, and I want you to become used to doing it and consistent at it. And so she explained to what that will do is becoming consistent at it will give you the ability to be able to show people who you are. And the reason she said 3 times a day, because it's 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 in the evening. She said what happens is, and she put it in an analogy of the radio. You know how you drive to work in the morning, you listen to the radio, and you hear certain songs. In the afternoon, if you listen to the radio, you listen to the radio, you hear somebody different, but they're usually playing the same song, right? They're usually playing the same rotation of song. And then the same thing in the evening, you'll have a different person, but they're usually playing the same rotation of song. She said, that's what you're doing with your business and your brand. You're playing the same rotation of your song as far as your business, telling people who you are, what you do, how you do it, but you're doing it at different times, and you're going to encounter different people, because the people that listen to you in the morning may not necessarily be the same ones that you listen to in the afternoon. Same ones in the afternoon you aren't going to read in the evening. So I was like, I got it. I get it. So I started doing that, and I started being consistent at it. Had to work at it. Did I say I had to work at it? Because I had to become consistent at it. So what I did, I actually created my own little niche to it. In the morning, I would talk about something that was motivational. I would give a motivational moment, what I would call a morning motivation. In the afternoon, I would do something that had to do with my business, whether if I have something going on, if I have a particular product or service that I wanted to actually kind of promote or kind of put out there, I would do that in the afternoon. And then in the evening, I would do something that had nothing to do with my business at all. And it would just be me trying to have some fun, getting people engaged. Gotcha. And I created what's called my evening conversation. And it's to get people in your algorithms. And for those that are on social media, you understand what the algorithm means to you. The more engagement you get from people, the more they see the post that you put up. So if I get people commenting on posts, on those particular posts in the evening, then they're more than likely to see the other posts that I have, the motivational moments, which will bring them to the posts that I have in the afternoon, which is my business and everything like that. And I'm constantly telling them about the different things that I have going on, talking about, different appearances that I may have. Once, if I have an event that's coming up that I'm going to be speaking at, I can put that there, and they're more than likely to see it because they're in that rotation. They've been responding to the comments, so they will see what I put in my news feed and everything like that. So that's been something that I've had to work at, as far as it was getting that consistency down, being able to be consistent with that. The bright side of it, or my wins, have been how I've seen my business grow. How I've seen that traction and how it's worked, how I've been able to get people now going from me having to constantly talk about who I am to people saying, hey, I got somebody that needs to write a book, or they're trying to start a business and everything like that. Can you, I want to refer them to you. Can I refer them to you? Or I want you to come and speak. Can you come and speak at this event that I'm having? So that's been the upside to it. That's been the win side of it and everything like that. The exposure that I'm getting, and I'm seeing how being consistent with my message and who I am people know who I am, they know what I do, and it works well for the product and services that I offer to people, and people see the genuineness behind what I do.
Awesome, awesome. So with the losses, how did you continue to persevere? How did you keep yourself motivated? Um,
Mm.
so, and I know what it's like from my end. And so have there been times when you lost money? Have you had events or things where people did not show up? Have you had books that maybe did not sell quite likely as you wanted them to? So when you experienced those, did you experience anything like that? And if so, what kept you going?
Absolutely. And what I tell people this, failure is part of the process. For
Right.
anybody, any entrepreneur, any person that you see that's successful, if they tell you that they did not fail, run from them, run, because they lied to you. There's not one person. And I'll give you a quick example. Coca-Cola sold in its first year, only sold 38 bottles of Coke.
Mm-hmm.
38 bottles.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So what I learned from those things, whether it's one book or whether it's 500 books, no matter the book, it's about, to me, I tell people, I don't chase the impact. I don't chase the money, I chase the impact. Because I know if I'm impacting people's lives, if I'm influencing people's lives, then as a result of that, then things will turn around. Yeah, I've lost money on things. I've lost money. I've wished that I have sold more books than what I've wanted. But I've at the end of the day, I've always understood that entrepreneurship is a journey. And I tell people it's not for everybody. This journey of entrepreneurship, it'll have you curled up like a baby, crying, wondering why you did, why am I doing this? Why did I even think about that I could have a successful business? It will have you doubting yourself. It will have you wholeheartedly guessing, second guessing, third guessing every decision that you make. But at the end of the day, I knew, and I've always known, in those moments when I'm doubting myself, when I've doubted myself, I usually try and do a couple of things. One, I'm a God-centered person. So first, I have a talk with God. I'm like, Lord, you the one that downloaded this into me, and I know that you didn't give it to me just to give it to me. I know that nothing that you give to us, it comes back to us void. So if I'm putting it out in your name, then I know it is intentional and it's doing it will do what it's supposed to do. And then I throw this in, hey, your name is on it. Jesus never fails. So I let her know, always let her know, hey, your name is on it because that's what you gave me. But all of those things, that's what I lean on. Whether it's, and then also too, I will listen to YouTube motivational things. I'll listen to Les Brown, or I'll listen to Pastor Miles Monroe, who has been. I'll listen to Eric Thomas. I listen to those people, my pastor. I listen to those people who can uplift me. That uplift me, that will pour into me, that will encourage me. It's like, yeah, no, things aren't going right now, but if you hold on and hear some things that'll hold you and that will pull you through those tough times that we all are going to have. And you need to have people around you. You need to have your circle of impact. Those people that know that if you're going through a tough time, they still support you, and they can even pour into you too. So those are just a couple of things that I try to do. And my gospel music, I'll listen to certain music at certain times because it uplifts me. I know it'll pour into me to help me get through those rough times. So those are just a couple of things that I do.
Okay, I have two last questions before we begin to wrap things up. So the first one, because you mentioned support, and we see it all the time on social media, and we hear people talk about it a lot. Oh, my family don't support me, or this person doesn't support me. But one of the things I've learned is, first of all, and you said this, I think you kind of hinted at this too, but we have to remember that God gave you this assignment, not them. They're not going to always understand. They can support in some ways, but they're not always going to be where your greatest support system comes from family, because he gave it to you, and they're not going to always understand what your assignment is. So just kind of speak to that to uplift somebody, especially that man that may be thinking like, well, they not supporting me in this, they support everything else, but they not supporting me. So kind of give us a nugget on that as far as, it's really not meant for, be okay with people not supporting you, in other words. Kind of
No,
give us some
absolutely.
wisdom behind that.
No, absolutely. And that's something that they must understand. It's your vision. It's not their vision, so they're not going to see it from your lens. Entrepreneurship is not it's not, like you said, it's not for everybody. So when you're an entrepreneur, and I know you can relate to this too, it's something that's inside of you. It's something that you don't see things like everybody else sees them. Your family may wonder, well, why are they sticking with this product or service, knowing good well ain't nobody gonna buy it, or they're not
Right.
even buying it. And even your friends, even your friends might not necessarily support you in it, but you do have to come in with the expectation that they won't. If they did, and my dad said this to me years ago. He said nobody owes you anything.
Mm-hmm.
He said, not even me and your mother, we don't owe you anything. But if people support you and they do something for you, you're appreciative of it. But you have to have the mindset that no, and your friends and family are only going to be able to take your business to a certain level, even if they were to put their full support behind it and everything like that. It's only going to take your business to a certain level. So you have to look to go beyond your friends and family supporting you. And that's where the building your network comes in, because you build your business network. And as you build your business network, that's how you really tell the true genuineness of your business. Hey, does this product or service really work? Because the people that don't know you and buying your product and service, them buying it and them saying, wow, I really think that this has done this for me. Right. When I have someone tell me, or I'm seeing someone take their business to the next level, and they tell me, I want to thank you for what you did for me. I want to thank you for how you showed me this, or how you poured into me to do that. Or I read your book and this actually helped me to be able to take me to another level and everything like that. That's what really, really kind of encouraged me. It's like, man, this thing is really working. I do kind of know a little bit about what I'm saying and everything like that. Because folks who have never encountered me, they've actually used what I put out there and have said that it actually genuinely works. So for those men, it's not going to be easy, because if you're married, your wife may be like the meanest thing and say, you know what? You bet you need to do something to keep the money flowing in here, or you need to do something, to be able to get the business up and going how it needs to be. Or if they're just totally not supportive at all, like, nah, that's not going to work. I don't believe that. You're going to have to understand that they're going to be those that are closest to you that may not believe in you, and then there's some that don't know you from anybody that will say the same thing. But have the understanding that it's up to you to believe in your product and service, because if you don't believe in it, then nobody else should or will believe in it. So that's what I would say about being, about expecting, your family and your friends to support you. You just come in with the understanding that they do, great. I love y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And if they don't, I appreciate it. That's cool. You don't believe in it. I'm moving on. I'm going to move on because I believe in what it is that I'm doing.
Awesome. We could go on and on about this topic, but we're going to end with this last question. So I shared what the name of this segment would be. And for those of you who have not figured it out yet, I want you to now tell us, Mr. McKenzie, what JNF Enterprises stands for. How did you even get that name?
Yeah, and when I was trying to think of a name for my company and what I wanted it to be, the foundation of it, I started thinking about Jesus and his ministry. What did he do in his ministry? And as I looked in the Bible, everything that he did was encompassed around three things. He enlightened, he empowered, and he impacted every single body except for two people, I believe, in the Bible, that he did not do those three things. And what I mean by enlighten, it means he taught them something. Then second, he empowered them, which means he equipped them with something. And then the third thing, he impacted them to do something because he charged them to go out and do something. He didn't teach you something, he didn't teach them something, equip them with something, and then didn't tell them to go do something. Right. So that's what I wanted to do with my business. I wanted to be able to, everything that JNF is a part of, I wanted it to teach people something, equip people with something, and then impact them to want to do something. So that's where the name Jesus Never Fails, and he never failed. He never failed at what he did. Every encounter that he had a profound impact on the individuals or people that had an encounter with him. Like I said, there's only two people I can remember. That was a man that came to him and said, "What must I do to be saved?" He said, "Sell everything that you have and come follow me." That man was like, "Oh, nah, I can't do that." Right. And you never hear about him again. And then the other was the first thief on the cross that said, "Hey, if you who you say you are, then get us down from here." He was selfish in what he was doing. He only wanted to save himself off of it through Jesus. But Jesus was like, turned to the other guy, the other thief was like, "This man has done nothing and he's up here. Remember me when I'm in paradise." Even on the cross, he actually taught somebody something. He impacted them to equip them with something, and they impacted them to do something. So even on taking his last breath, he enlightened, empowered, and impacted. And I wanted every encounter that somebody had, whether it was with me or just JNF Enterprises, in whatever kind of way that they have an encounter, to have that kind of impact with them, that they are forever changed because of that encounter that they had.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Mr. McKenzie. Now, before we wrap up, so again, for those of you who are listening, hopefully you have been taking notes. And I never really say that on the show, to get out your pen and paper to take notes, but man, if you have been listening to the shows, then these guys have been really dropping some true nuggets in to help you wherever you are, to help you move forward. And so again, Mr. McKenzie, I thank you so much for being here. Before we wrap up, please let the listeners know how they can get in touch with you, your social media handles, your website, email address, whatever information you have. How can they get in touch with you? And if you have anything coming up in September.
Yeah, actually, they can connect with me through our website, first of all, and that's www.jnfenterprises.com. That's the letter J, the letter N, the letter F, Jesus Never Fails, enterprises.com. We're on Facebook at JNF Enterprises. You can look me up there through our business page, or my personal page, which is Leroy McKenzie Jr. I'm on YouTube, JNF Enterprises. You can look us up, and we have so much material that we have on there, that our digital content that we place out there to be able to assist people in different aspects of entrepreneurship, training, learning, and everything like that, as well as Twitter. We're on Twitter at JNF Enterprises 1. Instagram, it's What's Up Baltimore Magazine, because that's one of the businesses that we have under JNF Enterprises, What's Up Baltimore Magazine. They can find us there at What's Up Baltimore Magazine on Instagram, and then LinkedIn as well, under my name, Leroy McKenzie Jr. So they can connect with us in email, JNF Enterprises LLC @gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you again for being here. Well, y'all, that wraps up another episode of From the Hearts of Men. Thank you so much for those of you who have been listening in, and those of you who have been faithfully listening in. Just know that we truly appreciate you, and we pray that God will continue to move you, that your Spirits will be stirred up however necessary based on what you're hearing, because we know that everything is done with purpose. And again, this show is just to indeed encourage, uplift, and empower you in your own journey. So with that being said, please make sure you stay safe and remember to be a blessing to someone else. Love y'all. Thanks for listening.